Hello, welcome you all. So today we are going to start a new topic, module number 3, that is the network functions. So I hope that the difference between the device engineering, network engineering, and the system engineering should be clear in your mind before we discuss further. So, classically, as far as any engineering discipline is concerned or application is concerned, is broadly or hierarchically can be divided in three different stages. Top of the level is the system engineering because in any way, as far as the any real life application is concerned, it has to be integrated with the system. Then number two is the circuit level engineering, and then number three is the device level engineering. When we talk about network theory as a whole, as a specialized subject or as foundation subject, in fact, I would say that in this case, more or less most of the time we stick at the circuit level engineering, and sometimes we be required to interface it with the higher hierarchy, that is the system level engineering. Okay? Device level has its own depth, and that is a different aspect where what particularly you study in the different electrical and electronics fundamental subjects. That is not the part of our discussion now. So as we can see that in module number 2, we primarily focus on the in-depth approach of the circuit level engineering by considering a two-port terminal where we had a dedicated input and output ports, which is further classified in four different categories, and in each category there are four quantities, okay, or the parameters you can say, which are under the measurement or which are supposed to calculate that influence the network performance by applying either open circuit or short circuit condition. That means, in other words, by applying that certain kind of constraint in terms of currents or the voltages. Now, as I have told you in the end of the last session, that in today's lecture onwards, now we are going to focus that the whole integrated network as a system. Okay, so it doesn't matter how small or the compact circuit is and how complex circuit is. Ultimately, each and every circuit is a system at certain hierarchy, and each and every system is a circuit at certain other hierarchy. So whenever you go hierarchically from down to top, the system level is the highest one and the device level is the depth one. Okay, circuit level is falls in the middle of the two. So as far as the current modules agenda is concerned, we are going to broadly uh, discuss over the network functions as well as the three-phase circuits and know the difference between balanced and unbalanced system and the importance of the complex power and its component. Okay. So as far as the network functions are concerned and its responses are concerned, we are going to discuss for the next three series of lectures over the network function and its responses. Right? So, what is network function? It is a function which relates all the currents and voltages of the network. It's called the network function, or sometimes it is also recognized as the transfer function. That is the transformation of the impedance or admittance or the current gain or the voltage gain. Okay, some specific characteristic of the given network. Okay, so therefore, if we prefer a Laplacian domain for the representation of our transfer function or the network, so any network is basically a ratio of some kind of algebraic equation. So here I am assuming that it is a ratio of a sum function zs by ps. So for the my flexibility, I have overwritten as z of s upon ps. If you refer the book of Valkenburg, it is mentioned os by ps. Some other book will mention some other thing. It doesn't matter whether it is the ratio of some a by b function, where a is a some function and b is another function, and network function is the ratio of these two numerator and upon the denominator functions. Okay, so for me, z is representing the zeros and here P is representing the poles. Okay, so we will talk about it little later. Fine. So ultimately, it doesn't matter how simple or how complex system it is, it can be represented by a nth order transfer function. What do you mean by nth order transfer function? That means the equal number of coefficients you will have. The very first will be the DC component where the s raised to 0, and then in incremental order if you will go, then a1 s raised to 1 plus a2 s raised to 2, and ultimately finally you can reach an s raised to n minus 1. So you started from degree s is equal to 0 to n minus 1, so is the nth order. Fine. Or in a reverse order you can write as it is presented in this particular slide, that the first coefficient you are assuming that let's say it is a naught dash s raised to n plus a1 dash s raised to n minus 1, so and so, and the last coefficient you are presenting a raised to an dash. Okay, so upon in the denominator again, we in numerator we assume some coefficient factor a of n. So in denominator let us we assume some factor b of n, so it is represented by b raised to b of b naught s raised to m. So because in numerator we have assumed a nth order function, so it cannot be the exactly same representation as far as the mathematical interpretation or analysis is concerned. So we have deliberately taken some other standard term. So we have taken say mth order. Okay, so denominator is the mth order algebraic equation. Fine, which is represented now in the frequency domain. So the lowest component in the denominator is bm dash. Okay, this also can be represented as mentioned in this slide in the terms of a naught by b naught, where a naught by b naught is always a constant. Okay, so we will talk about it. A naught by b naught will be ultimately some constant, and then we have extended it by applying a partial fraction, and if you will apply the partial fraction, then this nth order numerator equation and mth order denominator equation can be represented as the equal number of coefficient with the help of a partial fraction. So we are getting a ratio of a naught by b naught in numerator s minus a1, s minus a2, so and so till s minus an. Similarly in denominator it is s minus b1, s minus b2 till s minus bm. Okay, so it is representing that the numerator is a function which is basically a combination of or the integration of the sum of the n order polynomial equation. Similarly denominator is the m order polynomial equation. Fine. So now the numerator. Now what about these poles and zeros? Now poles are nothing but it is the roots of the denominator or the roots of the auxiliary equation mentioned in the denominator. So for our preference, for my preference, I mention it as that statement as P of S. So P of S is nothing but it is equal to B0 S raised to M, B1 S raised to M minus 1 plus summation till Bm. Okay. Similarly, in the numerator, that is another transfer function. Let's say it represented as a zeros. So zeros are nothing but these are the roots of the numerator. Okay, as far as the transfer function representation is concerned. Fine. Okay, remember that the zeros and poles are in terms of the phasor plane, it acts as a phase reversal. Okay, because zeros are in the numerator, so it is always a phase additive. Okay, so it generates, it reflects or it adds a positive phase into the system. So more the number of zeros you are going to add into the transfer function, more number of positive phases is going to be turned. Okay, your phase will be inclined towards the positive side. So remember we have a 0 degree, so you are inclining towards the positive side. Okay, you are inclining towards the positive side. But similarly poles generate a negative phase because it is in the denominator. So when if you bring it in numerator, so obviously you will get a factor of whole raised to minus 1. So that will give you 180 degree phase shift. Fine. So the poles will generate a phase reversal. So that's why whenever we have a one additional zeros or one additional poles, or during the analysis, design and analysis of a circuit, whenever we try to add a circuit, add a zeros or poles, it always a very crucial because it directly impact the performance of the phase reversal. Okay, fine. So this response is generated as that this response can be generated, you can say that whenever you wanted to interpret the numerator's roots, so you can compare this z of s statement is equal to 0, and from there you can get that n order number of zeros. Similarly, if you want the roots of the denominator, then you can compare p of s is equal to 0, and from there you can get your m number of roots, that is called the poles. Okay, and the numerator roots are called the zeros. Okay, where this ratio a naught by b naught, which is treated as a constant, is known as a scale function, is a scaling function. Fine. Okay, it's ultimately is a constant. It is not going to hamper the performance of your transfer function at all. Okay, so that's why it is called scaling function, and typically it is represented as h of s, or in a simpler term here I mention as a h, because this all ultimately is a function of the Laplacian domain. So it's a function of the frequency, remember it. Fine. So ultimately it's all the s variable functions. Fine. Okay, so now onwards, whenever we talk about the numerator roots, we are going to represent as a 0, and as far as our discussion is concerned, we are going to represent all the zeros with the help of a o, or with the help of a 0, you can say with the help of a o. Okay, with the help of a o we are going to represent. But whereas whenever you talk about a pole, that is the roots of the denominator, we are going to represent as a cross, or in other words you can say that a small x, as a cross. Okay, so this cross is representing the poles, and this o represents the zeros. Okay, that is the standard pattern we have been always adopted to get it. Fine. So remember, because roots of the numerator are falling, you will be able to calculate the root of the numerator when you can compare the numerator z of s is equal to 0. Okay, so that's why it is called the zeros of the network function. So what about the poles? Because in the denominator, when you are comparing p of s is equal to 0, okay, which is called the pole, okay, which has a phase reversal. Fine. So in that case, the phase has a is exist at the infinity. Fine. So the last transfer function, last root of the transfer function will be all typically in general is always represented as a pole. Fine, understand? So you remember this, that as far as any system is concerned, okay, typically it always originated with a pole and is ultimately going to terminate it as a zeros. Okay, this is a standard generic term, but as far as the detailed analysis is concerned regarding this, at the later stage you will be study these things in a detailed way under the head of the control system subject. Okay, probably typically in the third year of your undergraduation course. Okay, so let us further. The last condition is similarly the lowest degree of the numerator and denominator polynomials again should not be differ by more than 1. Okay, so as far as the degree of the numerator and polynomial is concerned, it should be 0. Difference should be 0, so that means both should be of the same degree, or maximum difference should be the 1. And similarly, the lowest degree should be also maximally differ by the 1. So that means if the numerator polynomial's lowest degree is, say for example, twice s square, so then the numerator should be also twice s square, or maximally plus s raised to 1. Okay, let's see that what are the necessary conditions for the as far as the network realization or the system realization is concerned. Okay, you will find more or less there is a lot of similarities into it. Okay, now we know that our network function is represented by, let's say in this condition is p by q, some ratio of polynomial of p by q. Okay, you can again rewrite zs upon ps, it is up to you. Okay, so if it is a p by q is a ratio of p by q, in that case the coefficient of the polynomial of numerator and denominator is must be real, and for the denominator must be positive. Fine. Why the stress is given in the denominator? Because remember, at the end of the day, pole is the ultimately thing, because when you are going to write down a transfer function for a closed loop system, in that particular case the denominator is very crucial as far as this open loop transfer function is concerned. It is an open loop transfer function. Okay, so for the circuit realization, the denominator is very important, that is the roots of the pole, because the system is always terminated, okay, or maybe preferably the originated, I'm sorry, from the pole itself. Okay, so without pole you cannot realize a system, correct? So therefore this should be always positive. Okay, please be noted it. Number 2, the poles and zeros, that is the roots of the denominator and the roots of the numerator must be conjugate if it is a imaginary or complex. Now you see this condition is exactly the same whether you talk about the impedance function or whether you talk about the system level transfer function. Okay. Number 3. Now there are two subset. One, the real part of the poles must be negative or 0. The real part of the pole must be negative or 0. Okay. And if it is a 0, then the pole must be simple. Okay. And this includes the origin as well, the location of the origin as well. That means there should not be any position where you are going to repetitive real roots, because it is an indication of the unstable system. Let us see further the polynomial of the denominator. Okay, if whether it is mentioned capital QS or small qs, actually both are the same. Okay, there should not be any different misinterpretation. Please be noted it. Right, the polynomial of the denominator, that is the roots of the denominator, that is the poles. Okay, which is the most important one, may not have any missing terms. Okay, between that the highest and the lowest degree. So it is equally applicable for the impedance function and as far as the system level function or the transfer function. Unless, okay, now there is a check. Unless all the even or all the odd terms are missing. Fine. So for example, if you take an example, there is a transfer function s raised to 3 plus twice s square plus s raised to 1, okay, plus 5 is equal to 0. So 5 is actually 5 into s raised to 0. Okay. So I repeat, let's say we have taken an example that the polynomial is s raised to 3 plus twice s square plus s plus 5 is equal to 0. So there is a third order coefficient, there is a second order coefficient, there is a first order and 0 order coefficient. No order is missing. That is the first indication, and all our coefficients are the positive. So that is the first indication that the system is stable. Now, if it is supposed to be a function like that, s raised to q plus 5s plus 1 is equal to 0. Now, the second order is missing. So it is an unstable system. Okay. Or the possibilities could be s raised to 3 plus s is equal to 0. Now you see all the odd terms, 3, third order, first order are there, but the second order and 0 order is missing. So the system can be stable. It is indication that the system can be stable. Okay, it is of course not unstable. Or you can say that it is twice s square plus 5 is equal to 0. So here is both the even terms are missing available, second order and 0th order, but the first order and third order are missing. Still it is okay. Fine. Number 5, the polynomial of the numerator may termed missing between the terms of the lowest and highest degree. Some of the coefficient may be negative. As far as the polynomial of the numerators is concerned, there may be a compromise. Some of the coefficient may be possible negative. When we talk about the system function, not the impedance function. Please be noted it. Okay. Next question, point or the conditions, you can say the degree of the numerator may be as small as 0 independent of the degree of the denominator. That means the degree of the numerator and denominator both should be the same. Clear? As what is mentioned, as small as 0. So that means there should be absolutely no difference, in a simpler word. Okay. Next, the four factors, that is the current amplification factor, impedance function, admittance function, and the conductance function. Okay, that is the voltage amplification factor. Okay, the maximum degree of the numerator is the maximum degree of the denominator. Okay, both the degree should be same as far as the, okay, numerator polynomial or the denominator polynomials are concerned. Clear? Okay. So for now, we are going to classify the transfer function or the system function to analyze it in terms of using the voltages and currents as a variable into the 4 different domains. Okay. So in as far as our discussion is concerned, when we refer the book of Emmy van Valkenburg, in this case, G of 1 to S is the indication of the voltage transfer function, okay, or the voltage transfer ratio. In fact, we would say the ratio of the numerator and denominator. So you can say it is a ratio, okay, voltage transfer ratio. Whereas the alpha 1 2 is indicating the current transfer ratio between the input and output port. Clear? Similarly, Z12 is indicating the transfer impedance, and or in sometimes it is typically called driving point impedance, and Y12 is recognized as driving point admittance or transfer admittance. So we are now getting 4 parameters to evaluate a transfer function or a system function, that is the voltage transfer ratio, current transfer ratio, transfer impedance, and the transfer admittance. Okay. Now, at the end of the last lecture, I have been told you that if you are specifically going to refer the book of Valkenburg as far as the network function is concerned, the nomenclature used in this particular book is exceptionally different than that of the any other book as far as the forwarding of the direction is concerned. You must be remember, in case of two-port network, because we are at the circuit level, not at the system level. So I have been told you very specifically that you have to be very careful when you are indicating the subscript between the input terminal and output terminal, that is between the terminal 1 and the terminal 2, because most of the time for our understanding we assume that the terminal 1 is the input terminal and 2 is indicating the output terminal. So say for example, there you have mentioned Z12. So that means the impedance in the forward, okay, forward impedance or the forward transfer impedance, because we are moving reading at as Z12, so 2 to 1. Okay, so that is exactly the same direction. Okay, now as far as the transfer function is concerned or system function is concerned, in some of the books they have taken care of this nomenclature. They have taken care of this nomenclature, whereas in as far as the Valkenburg is concerned, Valkenburg has neglected this. Okay, so at this stage, Z12 is indicating the transfer impedance in the forward direction itself. Okay, so it does not matter whether you are your mention 1 2. So I will come over this particular topic little later also, while we will take address certain examples. So to continue our discussions, as we consider that, let's take the first relatively simpler case, so one port network, and I hope that here at this stage you should not be confused. Okay, so this is the output port and this is the input port. So you have a dedicated one port. So what does it mean? That let's say for example current will flow in this direction with respect to the ground and it will exit in this direction. So ultimately in my last PowerPoint presentation, so somewhere here we mention as the one port. So it's more or less of the same thing, right? So ultimately, or whether it is a one port or two port system, so overall there are 4 functions that can be used to classify or to analyze the transfer function in terms of system function, both in terms of the transfer function or as well as the impedance function, right? So obviously one is Z of S, which is recognized as a driving point impedance. Y of S is recognized as driving point admittance. G of S, G is the signature which is here is used to represent the voltage transfer function, and alpha is used to represent the current transfer function as far as our textbook Valkenburg is concerned. Okay, so there is a standard nomenclature which is used. As we discussed under the head of two-port network also, here as far as the system function is concerned, how the time domain behavior can be observed, that as a function of the Kerath coefficient, that means there could be a number of coefficients as far as the numerator and denominator is concerned, and each coefficient is the signature of the particular or typical characteristic of offered by the roots of the numerator or denominator as indicated in equation number 1 and 2. Equation number 1 is the general form of equation, and the equation number 2 is the more simplified one after applying the partial fraction expression. Okay, so if you can represent in that way, so that means each coefficient is going to indicate one of the coefficient variables, and if you want to revert back, because this equation number 1 and 2 is represented in the frequency domain, so when we wanted to judge the behavior or the characteristic of the transfer function in time domain, then what you're supposed to need to do, you have to take the inverse of Laplace, and if you take the inverse of Laplace, you can get the variable or the function in the time domain, which is the expression of k1 e raised to s1t plus k2 e raised to s2 till nth order. If there is a n number of roots, so it is k of n e raised to sn t. Fine. So ultimately, that characteristic equation you can visualize in the 4 different category as we discussed under the head of two-port network analysis also. That is the critically damped, undamped, when there is no difference between the natural frequency and the damped frequency, critically damped when the damped frequency is able to reach 1, that means the value of zeta is able to reach 1. Zeta is the damping ratio, which is the ratio between the damped frequency and the undamped frequency. Okay, then if zeta is equal to more than 1, so that is the indication of the overdamped system. The system oscillation will be keep on increasing after every cycle, so that means there is an exponential rise as far as the positive phase or the negative phase is concerned, and that is the reason this characteristic is the indication that the system is ultimately leading to the unstable zone. Such kind of characteristic is never be able to control. You know that there is a no e raised to x function can be controlled. Okay, whereas you can control the e raised to minus x, which is the signature of the underdamped system. So that's why your 99% application is drawn based on the category of underdamped system itself, where the value of zeta is varying between 0 to 1. Okay, so that's how you will be able to judge it. Yeah. Let's have a little more understanding over the time domain behavior when we consider the one port or the two port network. So remember, as far as the any one port network is concerned, as indicated in the top of the table, that the voltage transfer ratio, okay, has the different signatures as far as the network function is concerned. Remember, G12 and G21 is the forward and reverse, is the indication of direction of forward and reverse as far as the two port analysis is concerned when we stick to the circuit level. But when we will switch ourselves to the promote ourselves to the system level or transfer function level, then it is just an indication of the reverse analogy itself. Okay, so where G12 is nothing but it is the inverse of G21, 1 upon G21. Similarly, Y12, okay, G is the indication of the voltage transfer ratio. Similarly, admittance function, transfer admittance, Y12 is equal to 1 upon Y21, and transfer impedance function, Z12 is equal to, yes, 1 upon Z21, and similarly alpha 12, which is the current transfer ratio, is equal to 1 upon alpha 21. This behavior is standardized for one port network. Now as far as the two port network is concerned between terminal 1 and 2, now as far as the two port network is concerned, the standardization will be equally applicable, but because it is two port network, so you can have 4 different possibilities. Okay, so as an example, if you are talking about the transfer impedance, you will have a Z11, Z22, Z12 and Z21. So Z11 is nothing but it is the ratio between the, remember, in case of network function, as far as the standard analogy mentioned in the Valkenberg is concerned, specific to Valkenberg, it is the indication all in forward direction. Remember, immaterial of the uh, uh, number of ports. Okay, number of ports means identity of the ports, because generally we indicate 1 by the input and 2 for the output. So here Z11 is nothing but it is the ratio of V1 upon I1, whereas Z22 is the ratio of V2 by I2. Z12 is the ratio of V2 by I1. Okay, as per the nomenclature, it should be V1 by I2, which is mentioned in here. What should be done? V2 by I1 as per the two-port network and so on. That's why I mentioned that please don't be confused. Okay, it's a system function, and as far as the Valkenburg is concerned, it doesn't follow that symbolic representation as far as the system function is concerned. Okay, so all are in forward direction. Z1, 2, you are moving to the port 2, 1 to 2. Okay, so it is V1 by I2. Okay, similarly Z21 is the ratio of 1 to 2. Okay, 1 is the input port, 2 is the output port. Okay, so it is Z is the ratio of V by I. So you are moving from 1 to 2. So input to output. Input is the denominator, output is the numerator. So it is the ratio is V2 by I1. Correct. What about Z12? You are moving from 2 to 1. Ratio is V by I. So 2 to 1. 2 is your input port, 1 is your output. Take it in that way. So it is V1 by I2. Clear? So to develop the overall conclusion between the four different analogy voltage transfer ratio, current transfer ratio, transfer impedance and transfer admittance, let us take an example that let's say that is a nth port. As you can see here, let us say that is the nth port. Okay, here it is indicating the numerator and denominator. Denominator is indicated by 1, numerator is indicated by 2. Okay, is the ratio of that function is the ratio of numerator upon denominator. Okay, so in that case, the denominator function, there is a voltage is a variable and current is a variable indicated by V1 and I1. Numerator variables are connected by 2, so represented by subscript 2. So it is V2 and I2. So when we work out the ratio of V2 by V1, it is voltage transfer ratio. Okay, so it is 2 to 1 to 2, G1 2. Clear? So I hope that within these two presentations, the idea should be very well clear. Okay, it is not exactly the similar identification as we discussed in the two-port network. Okay, similarly I2 by V1. Okay, it is the ratio of Y12 or Y21. Make it clear. Idea is clear. So there should not be any ambiguity. Again, I repeat. Okay, 2 is the numerator we have considered in this demonstration. 1 is the denominator. You can have your own analogy. Okay, if it is the 2 is the output and output terminal is the numerator. Okay, so gain is ultimately ratio of output upon input. Okay, so remember just a simple analogy. Gain is equal to response upon cause. Okay, output upon input. Fine. So so numerator is indicated by subscript 2, denominator is indicated by subscript 1, denominator is the input, numerator is the output. So therefore ratio of V2 by V1 is equal to G12. Okay, G12. So that is the ratio of V2 by V1, voltage transfer ratio. Similarly, alpha 12 is I2 by I1. Okay, Z12 is equal to V2 by I1. Okay, Y12 admittance, Y12 is equal to I2 by V1. Okay, so let us consider some examples so that it will be make more clear to us. Okay, so in this demonstration, as you can see, okay, a pole zero pattern as far as this configuration is concerned, that is the origin. This is the sigma plane. Remember that it is the S plane, and that is the imaginary axis, that is the real axis. So from the real axis with the distance b, and from the imaginary axis with the distance of a, this one you can see there is a complex conjugate pair of poles are exist. So it is minus a, okay, plus minus j b, right? It is right. So let me, I can write here. Okay, so the two complex conjugate roots are exist over minus a, okay, plus minus j b, right? So minus a, right? So that is the complex conjugate pole is exist, and at the same time there is a zero, as you can see here. Okay, there is a zero with the distance of c. Fine. So these are the complex conjugate pair of poles. Complex conjugate poles are exist here, and then there is a 0 which is exist at the distance of minus c. Right? C, right? So if you see, okay, so you can identify the location of poles and zeros. So therefore numerator is a function which is exist at some kth value of s plus c, or that proportional constant, let's say, is replaced by k1. Okay, similarly denominator is another function qs, where it is represented as s plus a, okay, one time plus jb and another time s plus a minus jb. Okay, so it is equal to s plus a of whole square plus b square. Let's say that proportionality constant is k2. So therefore you know, if there is an impedance function, what is the expression of impedance function is asked. So impedance function is equal to ratio of numerator polynomial upon denominator. Numerator is equal to k1 within bracket s plus c, in denominator k2 of s plus a whole square plus b square. You know the ratio of k1 k2 is another constant, so we can represent by it a scaling factor. Okay, that is h of s. Okay, so that is the transfer function. So this is the transfer function which will help you to realize this particular characteristic. Okay, I hope that it is clear. Let us take one more problem. Okay, that's a very interesting problem, and I would insist you that you attempt it before looking into the even solution. Okay, so what's the problem is, an inductor L is connected in series with a resistor of 9 ohm resistance. So L is in connected in series with 9 ohm resistors. Okay, okay, and further they see it, this whole combination is connected in parallel to a capacitor. This whole combination is connected. Okay, so an inductor of unknown value is connected in series with a 9 ohm resistance. Fine, so it is, I can write that it is R plus S of L or j omega L. Fine, so value of R is 9 ohm is given, and this whole combination, this RL circuit, okay, is connected in parallel with the, tuned with the capacitor C. The value of C is also unknown. So with this you can probably find out your impedance function. Okay, so this is the first job that you should do. Okay, then the driving point impedance, okay, of the this parallel combination has a 0 at s is equal to 3. So that means what will be the function, s plus 3, or I can write that k1 s plus within bracket s plus 3, that is my numerator function. And there is a two poles at minus 1.5 plus minus j half of root over 111. Fine, so in this case you can take the pair of, you can create the combination of a numerator function and the denominator function, and you can simplify the network. Okay, and then you can compare with the standard nomenclature, and you have to find out the value of RL. Sorry, R is given, L and C. Okay, so I would suggest that you attempt this particular problem. Okay, so you see, when we write a standard equation as per the interconnection between the RLC element, you see that in frequency domain your Z of S is equal to R plus SL, and this whole combination is in parallel with 1 by SC. So if you are going to write down this expression, you are getting R plus SL upon S square LS plus SRC plus 1. If you can rearrange in this way, I would always insist that keep the numerator and denominator coefficients in such a way that the highest order should always get in the form of 1. Okay, so if you will rearrange, you will get the equation is S plus R by L in the numerator, and in denominator C within bracket S square plus S R by L plus 1 by LC. So if you are going to compare this with the standard equation, which is equal to S square plus twice zeta omega ns plus omega square, okay, is equal to 0. So from there, okay, rearrange in the standard form. Okay, S square plus twice zeta omega ns plus omega n square. Okay, so it comes in that way. So if you are comparing this, so you are getting omega n square is equal to omega n is equal to 1 upon root over LC, okay, and twice zeta omega n is equal to R by L. But now in this problem you don't be required that additional component twice zeta omega n and omega n, because that is not asked. You are asked to calculate the value of L and C. So now if you will substitute, the location of zeros and poles are already given. With that, just like we solved in the previous problem in exam demonstration, you consider the statement that is the function of the numerator and function of denominator. You simplified that particular statement, so then now you are getting a second equation that is like k of s plus 3 upon the denominator s square plus 3s plus 30. Now equation number 1 and 2 can be comparable. So from therefore you are getting r by l is equal to 3. So value of l is already given. So that is you are getting 3 Henry. Okay. Now in the denominator 1 by LC is equal to 30. Now the value of L is equal to already known. Okay. So that is 1 by 90 farad. So that's how you can get. Okay. That similarly I would insist that there are a couple of problems given. Try to apply this problem, but in this problem that is a reverse analogy. Transfer function is given. You are asked to locate the location of the plot, and then accordingly you draw the time domain behavior of the particular function. Very interesting problem you see, and then at the end of the day you are asked to work out the time domain behavior. So don't leave your solution in this case at v of s. Once v of s is achieved by applying the partial fraction, then take the inverse Laplace of this and you convert the statement into the time domain. Okay. There is a small problem is given. Okay, so these kind of problem can be typically asked in terms of the test, particularly in gate like example. It is nothing but it is a 1 marks question. Okay, in terms of gate, the pole zero location is already given, and it is also given that the transfer function n of s, okay, is equal to half at s is equal to 0. So what I would suggest you that using that location of poles and zeros, first you write down the transfer function, then substitute the value s is equal to 0. Okay, and the s is equal to, when you will substitute s is equal to 0, then the right half transfer function is already known to you. So that's how. So if you see that, remember there is a, during the selection cropping of page, I think it is cut. So this one is actually magnitude is 1. Remember is minus 1. Minus is a negative minus 1. Correct it. Fine. So you see that as far as the previous expression is concerned, if you are going to replace the e raised to, okay, st, ei e raised to st as an input and e naught e raised to st as a output, then the expression will be 4s square plus twice s plus 1, okay, within bracket e naught e raised to st is equal to 3s minus 1 e naught e raised to st. So from here you appreciate that because both the input and output type of is e raised to st, so that's why you don't bother about it, right? Okay, nothing will go into the unstable zone because input is also transforming to the output because of the impedance matching property. Fine, and that's why both the signature of e raised to st, that is e raised to x, will be common, that will be cancelled. So therefore e naught by ei is a ultimately is a some constant. So therefore the n of s is the, which is the ratio of e naught by ei, exactly is e naught e raised to st upon ei e raised to st, okay, is equal to 3s minus 1 upon 4s square plus 2s plus 1. So number one, there is a possibility that the system can be controlled or it may be leads to unstable zone. Though I tell you that as far as this transfer function is concerned, it is an indication that system is actually unstable. It's not a asymptotically stable, it's not absolute stable, because the numerator is itself indicate there is a negative signature. Though as far as the transfer function property of the transfer function is concerned, it is bit different or flexible than that of the impedance function, as we have seen in the beginning of the lecture. The numerator zeros could be a negative coefficient. Okay, so that is not an absolute indication that system is perfectly unstable. It may leads to the stable zone or it can bring back to the stable zone. Okay, but how to bring a system which is tending towards the unstable zone back to the stable zone, okay, that is beyond the scope of this particular syllabus. Fine. Now, as far as the roots are concerned, okay, you are getting 3s minus 1 is equal to 0 by comparing the numerator is equal to 0. So s is you are getting 1 by 3, that is the location of 0. And if you look compare the denominator equation, that is 4s square plus 2s plus 1 is equal to 0, you can find your denominator roots, that is the number of poles p1 p2. It is a complex conjugate pole, so it is minus 1 by 4 plus minus j root over 3 by 4. So you can plot the location of, this is the complex conjugate pole, this is the zeros. Okay, so in zeros you got, see you are getting actually 1 by 3 is a positive. So this is this side, that is a 0, and here it is a pole. So this distance is 1 by 4 with a negative signature, and this magnitude is root over 3 by 4. Okay, now applying the stimulus as far as the C part is concerned, as you said, I suggest that you just take the replica of the type of input is suggesting in part B, in part C, I'm sorry, here that was suggesting 2 e raised to jt, and we have taken the input as 2 e raised to st. So if it is so, in that case, all the s are going to replace by the j. All the s is going to replace by the j. So simply you take the transfer function of part A. So n of j will be replaced as the ratio of pj by qj, where all the s is replaced by j. So it is 3j minus 1 upon 4j square. Now j square is equal to your minus 1 plus 2j plus 1. So we modified this equation. So now you are getting a statement 2 e raised to upon 3j minus 1 upon in denominator 2j minus 3 of e raised to jt, or if you can rearrange, okay, in the Cartesian form, okay. So it is 1.75 e raised to j of t minus 37.90. That is the amount of time delay you are getting. Remember, between the input and output. Otherwise, output is going to definitely replicate the input, replicate the right. So that's how you can judge the response of the system in time domain. Okay, though there is a time domain has also certain limitations. Frequency domain has all, as I told you in the uh, transient response analysis, that whenever you will rely on the time domain, your frequency information is lost. Wherever you are in the frequency domain, your time information is lost. So you have to compromise with one of the two. So it depends that what kind of application, whether you're more interested about the static parameters or whether you're looking over the dynamic parameters. Normally static parameters are analogies are analyzed in the time domain, whereas the dynamic response of the circuit or the network or the system is analyzed primarily on the frequency domain. Okay, so with this we are going to wind up the discussion over the network function. Still, if you have any doubt between the two-port analysis and the network function, you can discuss with me in the next coming series of the lecture. So as far as the network function is concerned, we will still continuing with the certain other topics of the discussion, but I hope that at this stage of lecture, the difference between the two-port analysis or the importance of the two-port analysis, okay, and the role of network function would have been very well clear to